Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ariana, but you can call me Ari. And today we are in a different location. Same apartment, just different part of the apartment. I'm going to be experimenting with where I want to sit. I like here because I can have all the things I need in front of me. I can have my books, I have my tea, I have my chapstick, and like I can just grab things more easily. So we'll feel out how this works. The lighting is much more consistent over here. I realized in my last video the lighting was kind of doing a lot of fluctuating because I am near a lot of trees. And so hopefully we all like this better. Maybe you don't really care. And that's also nice because it's only my problem. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about social horrors. We're going to be talking about 3 different books that deal with a variety of socially horrific circumstances, and I think obviously it's appropriate for the season, but also I think horror is in a different place now and across media, across movies, books, because there's a lot of horror that we experience every day, and I think media is taking that and applying that to their movies and to their writing, and it's great because no longer is horror about the monster under your bed. It's not about the werewolf in the woods. It's about the people we interact with every day, the systems we interact with every day, the circumstances we are under every day. We're starting with The Reformatory by Tananarive Due. This book is based on true events that the author herself has had a family member experience, and based off of that family member, her uncle Robert Stevens, his experience in reform schools, she wrote this book. This is a book that takes place in 1950s Jim Crow South, and it follows a little boy and his sister, Robbie, based off of the Due's uncle, Robert. Robbie is sentenced to 6 months to a reform school for protecting his sister, who was being harassed by this white kid, and he kicked this kid in defense of his sister. He was sentenced to 6 months to this reform school, and it is a place where the idea is that these kids go and they learn how to be better. They go to school, and it's like, the idea of like maybe a boarding school, but in actuality, they are subjected to very harsh treatment, torture, and abuse. The adults, it goes untalked about, unnoticed. Robbie's sister, Gloria, which is my grandmother's name, Robert's sister, Gloria, spends pretty much all of her time trying to figure out how to get him back, how to get him out of this reform school. And so we go back and forth with perspectives between Robert and his sister. We also know that Robbie is able to see haints, which are ghosts, but these ghosts are able to kind of manipulate his reality, and they are popping up in frequency. Like, they're everywhere at this reform school because it's essentially restless souls that were children who were tortured here, and it's just like a very intense experience for a child who did something where the punishment does not at all fit the crime. This is my second time attempting to read it. I finished it this time. The first time it was a lot. The first 200 pages are just descriptions of the abuse that these children, that Robbie and other children have and are experiencing. And it is very dark and heavy and hard to process and get. If you haven't read this yet, you're gonna go into this and it's going to be hard. It's going to be a lot, but and it is a thick book, and it's a journey for sure. But I think by the end of this, there is a hopeful ending. This is a book that I think fits the social horror category because it's dealing with racism. It's dealing with this cycle of repeated slavery, that's under the guise of something else. It's as if if you put it under the umbrella of a school, an education system, which is a system within itself that is deeply flawed, and then we just plug these kids in, we're helping them, right? The hard part is all the adults that are involved that know it's wrong, that know it's happening, but do nothing about it. And it's these kids that end up taking matters into their own hands and finding a way through it in the first place. That is The Reformatory. Really, I think this book fits this category because it's about these systems that are in place, the education system, the judicial system, these systems that are supposed to be in place to protect us are the exact things that are hurting us. It is certainly a book that I would recommend reading. So the next book that we're going to talk about is The Vegetarian by Kang, and this was such a phenomenally written book. It had this kind of classic vibe to it, but also very modern in its take on autonomy and choice. Let's just talk about what it's about. So this book follows a woman named Young-hae who we're in South Korea. She is vegetarian. She no longer wants to eat meat. She tells her husband, she tells her family, and they have a very adverse reaction to it. I think culturally speaking is like, it'd be very strange in South Korea to not eat meat, and I think that's part of it, but also they're very obsessed with understanding why. And every time she tells them why she's a vegetarian, all of a sudden she says it's because of something that happened in a dream. And that is what this book feels like. It feels like a freaking fever dream. And one that happens very quickly. You see how small this book is, and it packs a punch. We have this book broken up in 3 acts. The first act, I believe, is her husband's perspective. The second act is her brother-in-law's perspective, and the third act is her sister's perspective. So we never get anything directly from Young-hae's experience. And if you watched my last video on The Bluest Eye, there is a similar theme in that book in regards to like taking the perspective of the character who's like our main focus, taking their perspective completely out of the book. So if you're interested in a book that deals with a similar theme, check out that video. This is about so many things, but ultimately I think it is about suppression and oppression and systems that, again, are designed to make us feel safe, make us feel protected, fail us. And the expectation of those systems and of those social norms weighing on someone's psyche so much to the point where they have to kind of alienate from the world that they understand or have been forced to understand and make their own reality. I think there is some review about like this book being a little bit of just like just throwing stuff at the wall just for the sake of like shock value. But I think if any artist that puts something out there, especially like writing a book, like that takes time, that takes energy. And I don't think that's just like something you just throw to the wall, right? Like there's something that we're supposed to understand. Everybody that has a perspective, the husband, the brother-in-law, the sister, all have a different opinion and relationship with how they handle Young-hae, but they never actually understand her or care to really actually understand her. They just want her to be the way she's always been. And Young-hae has a history of being like, you know, very compliant, very like, I'll take care of the husband, I take care of the family, I do the things I'm expected to do. He's like not a good guy, but like I'm a good woman and I stay with him. And she's just like very docile, compliant. Her husband doesn't even really seem to like her. And then the brother-in-law, so as she deteriorates, right? So she's not just a vegetarian, she starts to actually deteriorate, and it kind of goes to the extent of like her denouncing her humanness. Like the brother-in-law, he uses like this like I'm an artist, I'm a real artsy guy, and he uses that narrative to take advantage of her. She subverts what people expect of her, and that somehow intrigues him, and he takes advantage of that. And then her sister is like the savior, right? Like the sister has her own issues. Clearly, she's got her own issues at home because the brother-in-law has lost his marbles. So she's dealing with things that she's not directly dealing with because she's using all of like her own suppressed feelings to project onto her sister Young-hae. Like she's like the savior, and that's her identity. And so all of these identities centering Young-hae have nothing to actually do with Young-hae. It's everyone else's crap being inflicted on her, and she's projecting it. She's like, no, I don't want to live the way humans like you want to live or have wanted me to live. And I think this is what happens when, like in an extreme sense of what happens when people start to not want to play by the rules anymore. Like, I don't want to live the way that you expect me to. I'm going to neglect that, reject that, and create my own reality. And by doing so, she freed herself. The writing was really good. The story was really intriguing. And if you were able to look beyond just the text, then you probably got a little bit more out of it than just like horror for horror's sake. But the fact that this is about autonomy, about suppression of emotion and thoughts and ideas, and living in a world or in a society where women are expected to behave and look and act a certain way. And it's like, what happens when we say no to that? What happens when we completely subvert everyone's idea of who we are and how we should behave? And Han Kang does that and takes it to the extreme, as one should do in literature. If you're gonna go there, I think if you're gonna write a book, you're gonna go there, right? Fully commit. That's any art, right? But fully commit to the idea of what it is. The last one is Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. I read this book a little while ago, so bear with me as the details may be a little fuzzy, but I believe we're following Claudia, who has her closest and bestest and only friend, Monday, has gone missing. And it's most of the book is spent with Claudia trying to figure out what happened to Monday. One day, Monday was in school, and the next day, she wasn't. And no one else seems to be worried. The adults are neglecting like this as like oh, well, she's with family. That's what we've heard. The school doesn't seem to care. Oh, well, I heard that her aunt sent an email, so whatever. And no one cares. No one cares but Claudia. And Claudia's like, why is no one paying attention to the fact that this girl is missing? And so we automatically have this kind of like reflection on missing Black girls in the country. And so there is currently overwhelming number of missing Black children historically that have gone like just unreported, unannounced, and unfound. Claudia has experienced a lot of trauma as it relates to what happened to Monday. We learned that Monday has been missing, I think, at this point, a year. Where we open up with Claudia looking for her friend and all that stuff is like actually her reliving the experience, the trauma of losing the friend. And we find out what actually happened. And it's quite horrific to find out by the end. This is a book that deals with what trauma can look like over time, with like the splotches of memory and reliving the experience. And also it has something to say about what happens when little Black children go missing, because it seems that no one cares. And it is the same story over and over and over again. And it's not taken seriously. And that is a lot of what this book is about. Another book that I think fits this theme so well because of the social horror of missing Black children, missing Black girls, and also the trauma that is left behind. Yeah, that's Monday's Not Coming. So that's 3 books. They're all kind of red, aren't they? I thought that this would be appropriate for the season. And also I read these books sporadically in time, so it's like my memory may be a little fuzzy. So if there's something in the comments that I may have gotten wrong or I missed, let me know. If you read any of these 3 books, let me know what you think about them. And if you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like. Please do subscribe. Please just let's make some conversation in the comments, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.